I am reminded of a story of a man who, in the mid-70s, stopped coming to Mass because he said the priest, all they do is talk about money. And 50 years later, his children, his grandchildren, goaded him into coming to Mass after 50 years, and he showed up on CSA Sunday. And if that's you, I apologize. I apologize. But I'd like to start this morning actually talking about something that came up a couple days ago in the readings. St. Paul, letter to the Romans, chapter 7, he calls two principles in himself, the two laws in himself, that pull against each other, his mind and his body. He was a convert. Paul was a convert. He got knocked over and was baptized and became, as we know, a devout Christian and missionary. He knew the way of life was Jesus Christ. But whenever he would acknowledge that, he would recognize that his body would oftentimes push against that. He was tempted to sin. He says things like, I do the things that I hate, and the thing I want to do, I don't do. Recognizing these two principalities, these two principles, these two laws were present in him. Now, traditionally, we would think of this, back in the 70s, we watched cartoons of Elmer Fudd, and he would have these two, an angel and a demon on his shoulder. You've seen this before, where these two entities, a demon and an angel, tempting him. Who is he going to listen to? Who is he going to feed? Who is he going to bow to? But I think even a better image, an image I like to use because it does come from the Bible, is the image of two lions. Now, the scriptures do speak of the devil as a lion. In 1 Peter 5, it says, to be on guard, because the devil is prowling like a lion, a young lion, looking for someone to devour. That's what he is. The devil is not sitting on a throne in hell. He is prowling around the world looking for the ruin of souls. But the term lion is also used for Christ. He is considered, one of his titles is the Lion of the tribe of Judah. And if you like those Chronicles of Narnia books, that's the image they use, that C.S. Lewis uses in Aslan. Aslan is a lion, and he's supposed to be the Christ image who gave his life to account for the sin of those children. So we have these two lions that are a part of us. But I also, because of the internet, you can find out all about lions these days and how they kind of function in prides. In a pride of lions, there's only 3 or 4 males. And there's one main male, kind of an alpha male. And there's 3 or 4 like teenage boy males, dozen female lionesses, and dozens of cubs. And those 3 little teenage male lions, their job is to grow up and move on. They're in training, I guess. But a pride only has one main lion. And if another lion comes up to him and challenges him as the head of the pride, they don't debate, they don't play chess, they don't have a race. They fight. So either one is dead or one just rolls over, gives up, and moves on. So the question is, which one wins? Which one has the best chance of winning? Well, if you have 2 lions, the one that's going to win is the one that is well fed, who's been eating and has fuel. And I would say that too, that in us, there is a right-ordered side, a Christian side, and then there is a disordered side or sinful side. Those are 2 lions, and the question is, Which one is going to win? The one that wins is the one we feed. It's the one we feed. Now, I think this is a perfect image for many of the ministries in our church, many of the things that people struggle with. There are men, many men and women too, who struggle with sins of impurity, addiction. Many men who come to us, because we have a courage ministry, who struggle with same-sex attraction. And these are some of the bravest people I've ever met. And I think that's why the ministry is called Courage. Anyway, they use the image of a lion, because someone who has disordered attractions, same-sex attractions, they will never say it's 100%. They'll say it's like 60-40, 70-30. Very few is it 100%. And they'll speak to it as like a lion. Which side is going to win? Well, how do we feed the disordered side of someone who's struggling with addiction or disordered inclinations? They feed that lion with pornography, with alcohol, with hanging around the wrong crowds, the theater, going off to college and studying, fashion merchandising or something. But how do they feed the right ordered side of them? Well, it's from prayer, sacrament, healthy relationships, sometimes even sports and their diet, but also from counseling, from healing those memories, those father wound, especially memories that can be healed. And when that happens, watch that lion grow strong. And then this other lion becomes this little tiny little cub. May not disappear altogether, but he's now kept at bay. But I think all of us, this manifests in our lives between the good that we want and the bad that we're tempted to. This manifests in my life, oftentimes with prayer. I love to pray. I do. I pray at my house. I like to pray at my house. But oftentimes people come and it's not always the most conducive place. I like to go to Cedar Break to pray. I go there at least once a month and stay for a couple days. Well, Sunday night, Monday. To Cedar Break in Belton. It's a beautiful place to go pray. It's quiet, it's beautiful, it's stark, and it's conducive to prayer. But to get to Cedar Break, I have to go down that gauntlet known as West Adams, which has Bush's and Dunkin' Donuts and Shipley's. Everything that my body desires. And every time I pass those things, it's a way of flexing your spiritual muscles, feeding the right lion, because the other lion is roaring, especially when they have 2 for $1 or something like that. But these are practical ways we feed these different lions in us. I think of one of the greatest theological stories ever written that I mentioned here before. The book was actually called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You have these one boy, Charlie Bucket, and 4 snotty children. And you have one lion, a young boy raised in a poor family who has to be disciplined and generous. Then you have Veruca Salt. Someone fed that lion and almost killed her. And we all know what happens sometimes in families with our kids. We know families that they fed the lion of selfishness to one of their children, gave them everything they wanted, everything they needed, never let them fail. And now they have a 35-year-old son living in the basement playing video games, not paying rent, addicted to God only knows what on the internet, and then his girlfriend's living with him. And they don't know how it happened. Well, that lion was fed. And it's going to take some discipline. But as Catholics and as Christians, we believe that love is sacrifice. It is sacrifice. That's what real love is. It costs us something. It costs us discipline. And that's why I think marriages, as well as vocations to the priesthood and religious life, is down. Because people don't want to say yes to a vocation and then no to the rest of the world. That's what you do when you get married. You tell someone I love you the most. You tell the rest of the world, this person comes first in my life. When you have a vocation of priesthood or religious life, you're telling the church, Mother Church, and Christ and his people, you come first. You're telling the rest of the world, even your family, you don't come first anymore. That takes sacrifice. It's often uncomfortable because we're used to scratching whatever itch we have. And as Christians, we're asked to tithe time, talent, and treasure. I personally think that the hardest thing is time. To give of your time, oftentimes it's just easier to write a check. But we're also recognized that each of you have talents in something. Do you utilize them or do you bury them? But today, especially this past few weeks, we've been talking about treasure because it does take money. And as you saw the video last week, and in your pews in front of you is one of these envelopes. So who got one of these envelopes in the mail? Raise your hand. Okay. So did I. I would encourage you, please send something in. This is letting us know that we're part of not just St. Luke. You know, we have an ecclesiology that's different from the Protestants around us. Nothing against theirs. It's just the way it is. If you join Temple Bible or a Vista, you just join that church. They're not connected with a worldwide universal church. It's just them. That's fine. And when you tithe to them. But when you become Catholic, and we have a young teenager becoming Catholic tonight, which is amazing, she'll now join a 2,000-year-old, 1.2 billion person church. That's awesome and a pain in the backside. Let's just admit it. It is both a blessing and a cross. But Mother Church asks us to be mindful of the rest of the church. Having said that, in the past, when we've talked about tithing, we've usually said, use the church's guidance, to give 4% to your local parish, 1% to the diocese, and 5% to something in the community that means a lot to you. To find something you can contribute to because we're part of this community. But I'm going to challenge all of you now. In the past, we have about 1,200 families in this parish. Only about 200 give to the diocese. That's about 18%. I think we can do better. And if you're not comfortable giving 1%, give 0.5% to the diocese. That's still a lot of money. It's still quite a bit. Even if you send in $30, it counts as a participation. Because we are part of this local church, it is the bishop who is our pastor. And quite frankly, half of all the money, half of it, all the money that goes to the diocese, goes to pay for the training of our seminarians. We have 40 some odd seminarians. And hold on tight. Okay, here we go. It costs $50,000 per seminarian per year to train them. That's stipends, room and board, tuition, insurance. It's very expensive. But these are men who've come forward to leave their life behind and say, yes, Lord, I'm going to try. I'm going to try. And it is easy. So the church has made it quite easy. Each one of you should have one of these little envelopes in front of you in the little pew. There's some pencils in there. It's got all kinds of foldy things. You can, if you've already got one in the mail and you already sent it in, you can even write on here, I already sent it in. Leave me alone. You can put that. You have all kinds of options, credit card, check, and there's even one of these QR codes. You can put your phone on there. I tried that the other day. It works. But then to go ahead and fold it up and put it in that box back there. Because what does it do for us? Well, it builds up the lion in us of generosity. That lion has to be fed. And I know that it is painful. I do not take a vow of poverty. I take a vow of obedience and chastity. I don't take a vow of poverty. I get paid. I have a salary. I pay taxes I own a car. And so in my check too, it has federal income tax. And that hurts knowing that my money goes to the government that's $33 trillion in debt. They can't, balance a checkbook up there. But we're Americans. But we are Americans. And this is the society we belong to, and we have to contribute to the common good. So I would ask each of you to pray about this. What you give to the local parish, and this parish is very generous, very generous. That's how we got a fence. That's how we got more employees. That's how we redid the RE building, put on a new roof and new air conditioners. These things are expensive, and you helped us pay for that. Now I need you to keep in mind the larger church, that all of us can feed that lion, the lion that makes all of us as a community more generous.